AI and deepfakes and these things. So maybe that's actually part of that weird understanding of reality.
What was your thesis about again? Can you did you have a title or what was the
that was long ago. Let's see what I had to find it. There was something with limitation of perception, something. Let me see if I can find it.
No, but we got into this topic based on Alex view on, did you hear the survey in US on recruitment in, how graduate students that's coming straight out of university now acts and college I would say coming out of and into the workforce, and the joke was, to a Swedish, this is a joke.
Yes,
is like, have you heard the Swedish college students, they bring their parents to the recruitment interview?
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
So what was this, Alice? Was it some kind of survey, or how did you get about this news?
Well, it was actually a friend that sent it to me on Instagram. It was like a clip, where they make a mockery out of this. And I sort of snapped up on it and I was like, is this true? And I started digging and I found the survey and several articles about it. So I was like, okay, let's dive deeper down this rabbit hole. So I did. And for me, it's not only about sort of this kind of behavior. It was 1 in every 5 college graduate that actually brought their parent in sitting on the interview, not like being a support person outside of the room, but actually bring them in on the interview.
So weird.
It's very
as a Swede, this is weird.
It's weird. So, but I started thinking, so what does this have as an implication moving forward? Like, this is Gen X, which is the next generation of the workforce, bringing and onboarding them into organizations. What are the consequences looking at these individuals for each and every organization that are looking to employ younger professionals, basically? So that was very interesting for me, even though it was funny.
And one of the key outcomes that you mentioned around the survey is like, well, kind of, if you bring your parents to the survey, you're acting like a baby. We don't hire babies.
Exactly.
So one of the core impacts is like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yes.
And that is, even in the weirdness of America, even them get it right here.
The question is it the kids or the parents that are...
that's a good one. Who is curling who?
The chicken or the egg.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the parents should be the grown-up, so to speak, and realize that this is potentially a bad thing, you would imagine.
If my kid would ask me that, or if your kid would ask you that, would you say, grow up? Or would you say, of course?
I would see it as a personal failure. I mean,
exactly.
I would too. If my child was like, Mum, can you come with me for an interview?
Yeah. But what if it's like this? Mom, Dad, whatever, I don't have any kids. You're so freaking tired of your kid not getting a job. You just want them out. It's like, have you freaking go there and do it for you.
That's
the only logical explanation to this.
There's a movie around this. There's a great funny comedy.
Truman Show?
No, another one where they hire Jennifer Aniston as the beautiful girlfriend in order to lure the 35-year-old bachelor living at home with mom to get the fuck out of our house. Yeah, it's a beautiful. Who is it? It's Jennifer Aniston. It's Matthew McConaughey, is the bachelor, of course.
Maybe
you cracked it. This is not about the kids. It's about the parents kicking their kids out.
I think that's the only logical, but again, people aren't really logical or rational, right? So maybe we're just sitting here rationalizing now.
But one of the things you said, Alex, is like, okay, this is maybe a backdrop of the pandemic. It's a backdrop of Generation X growing up now and having awkward social skills.
Yeah.
And in their most sensitive prime years when they're supposed to graduate from being a kid to being an adult. And they're lacking some of these fundamental interactive skills and confidence, I guess.
Exactly.
So that is another angle on this, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Weird.
And then, of course, we can take that. We could take that into the bigger picture of weirdness that is sort of convoluted topic. US right now. From the woke to the to the curling we're talking about here, to the many weird
before
things.
we jump into all of those rabbit holes,
thank you. Perfect cue.
Welcome you here, Alexandra Davies and Stefan Wendin.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here. It's actually the first one this year, right?
Yeah. So this is the kickoff.
Kickoff.
The kickoff.
It's going to be extra party then.
This is like we need to start with a cracker. Let's talk about talent.
Yeah.
Firecrack.
And let's start to just give a quick background about who you are. And if we start with you, Alexandra, let's see if I get the background correct. But you can describe yourself. But you're a founder of Next Gen Talent.
Yes.
Right. And I guess an expert in recruitment.
Yes.
And also, I saw you write something about using AI to unlock talents beyond resumes.
Yes.
That is something I'm really looking forward to hearing more about.
Absolutely.
And then before we jump into I'd just like to quickly also welcome Stefan. And I'm not sure what's the proper way to describe your background as well. It's AI Innovation Officer.
Nutcase.
Nutcase, that's it.
No.
Nutcase. That was another way.
But actually, Nutcase, Neo4j Prime Evangelist. Is that the same? That was
equivalent. No, but I think it's fun though. It must have been a year ago.
When you were here?
Yeah, I was leaving Neo4j at the time. Promised myself stay away from working for a year and focused on reading up on everything new on AI, which I did, work with startups, thinking about what actually is going on instead of just rushing for the next thing. So I guess that's what I do. I help companies, organizations.
Could it be something like you're an expert in AI-driven product development, innovation in something?
Yeah, something like that in that space.
Yeah, I have an angle on this. I want to test it on you.
Okay.
AI.
Is this whole thing about me getting a job so everybody gets rid of me, like the parents kicking someone out?
This is the curling part. This is the curling part in action with a professional podcast.
Professional team, yeah. I leveled up.
But there is, someone used the word sometimes to say like when we are succeeding with AI or data and when we are scaling that up, it's a socio-technical problem. So it's both about the tech stack and all that, but ultimately it's just tech. Is how you organize it from the practices in the engineering all the way up to what you want to do with your innovation. And you're the kind of guy who kind of grasps the tech, but you are really 5-dimensionals on the socio part. You understand? Yeah. I mean, that's your real sort of superpower.
Yeah. No, I think
is that a?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
And before we jump into that, I think that's a great cliffhanger here when we move more into your background of Stefan. But before we jump into that,
thank you.
Let's hear more about who is really Alexandra Davies. How would you describe your background? What's your interest? What's your passion? How would you describe yourself?
God, tricky questions. But I've been running my own business within the talent industry, so to speak, for the last 2 years. I was called a bit crazy or a nutter because I was 3 months pregnant when I sort of jumped ship. I didn't want to go back once I had my child. I've been working for the last 15 years with recruitment and talent in some sense. I've been building functions, recruitment companies, you name it, from scratch, more or less. And that's what I love doing. I love building something that is something more efficient that they currently have, or basically just do something better with a twist.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. And we can just say also that, of course, the theme of today is more about the AI-enabled future and specifically related to talent acquisition as well. So,
and I did a post that we're going to talk about the paradox today.
Okay.
The paradox, the chicken and the egg.
Got it.
You can start with, we want AI augmented talent and recruitment. What is that looking like? And we can go into the rabbit hole of what those capabilities are.
Absolutely.
But it kind of starts with, first you need to know how to organize AI and recruit the right AI talent to build that for you or organize that for you. So it's the chicken and the egg of the normal talent to get the right AI talent in order to get to the AI augmented technology talent.
Correct.
That's the paradox.
Yes. Another awesome topic to add to the list.
There's several topics hidden
Topic
in there.
machine.
That's a topic machine.
But perhaps just give a bit more about the background. What's your educational, or how did you come into the recruitment business?
Yeah, so this is a plot twist. I actually studied law.
Oh.
Yeah. Didn't like it at all.
Good for you.
It wasn't for me. And I sort of discovered this 2 years into my studies. And I was just like, okay, I don't have a backup plan. What the hell am I supposed to do? So I just carried on through it. And then I came out and I sort of like, what do I want to do? What do I have a passion for? I was like, first of all, I like people. And I want to work in an industry where you are able to solve problems. And I want to be able to build my own brand.
Right.
And the recruitment industry back then, this was in 2008 and 2009, was a bit, underdeveloped. LinkedIn wasn't really around to start off with. That kind of gives you a sense of where we were at. And I kind of like that. And I had a thought in my head that I wanted to make a gold standard in some sense. I wanted people to sort of like, if you come to me and work with me, you know that it's a gold standard and you're going to move away from that process or working with me, feeling as if you don't want to go to anybody else or you remember me. So that's been in my sort of the back of my head throughout these years.
You mentioned LinkedIn as well. I think all people, including myself for sure, because I've been recruiting for 15 years as well or more. And it's always been surprising, I think, how poor the tooling is around recruitment. And even with LinkedIn, I mean, LinkedIn is great for many purposes, but it's surprising how poor the support for both the employee and the employer, I think, is. And even if you take all the top branding tooling that you do have for recruitment, I think they're also lacking, the basic kind of AI technology. And I actually built some on my own because I was missing it at the time. And I think it's surprising how poor the tooling is still to this day. Would you agree?
100%.
Awesome. So I add that as a topic later, tooling around recruitment.
Tooling around recruitment. Good.
Yep.
That's actually how we sort of, the banter that we went through the first time we met. I'm like, oh my God, he has so much knowledge that we could apply to this industry because...
Tell us about that anecdote when you met and you had a banter around data and recruitment.
And people.
And what was the setting? I assume at the party with the
No. There was no party. It was actually
party for two.
Party for two. Ooh, good tagline. Maybe that's a new podcast we can run. Goran, can you produce it for us? Party for two. Very good. No, it came out of actually LinkedIn. I don't know what I commented, but it was a common friend. I commented on something, and then, but you should talk with Alexandra. And I was like, yeah, let's do it then. And then we booked a meeting, hit it off directly. And I think what I really appreciate with her is like super fast thinking, but also with the heart in the exact right place, understanding what is it that drives people, what is it that drives talent, what is it that's important. It's not the stack of keywords. It's not this crappy whatever BS that these systems or persons even focus very much on.
The CV machinery.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's another topic that we need to unpack, and we need to kill the CV.
I had a topic about resumes in some way, both how to do it or how not to do it or something.
And what is wrong with the CV type recruitment?
Yeah. No, but I think was just hitting it straight off. It felt like time was flying, as it does when you meet someone and really connect on the topic. And it's also a topic that I'm super passionate about. I wasn't really caring about it. I never applied for a single job. But then I started looking into this and I was like, this is literally catastrophical. This is way worse than
other
kids bringing people to interviews. This is like the worst untransformed area ever. This is worse than finance. This is worse than governments. This is worse than
HR
anything.
is the last bastion of analog.
It is. And it's also in a time when it's most needed.
Yes.
we talk about supercomputers and blah, 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 but then it's like, you can't even freaking
recruit the right people to run them.
Exactly. No, you can't even find them. You don't even know how to find them.
Every company needs it. And a way to do the matchmaking between the employer and employee, and it's the tooling around it and the best practices is really bad.
But and to put this in a fun context, this whole theme. I stole a very simple 10-20-70 rule from Boston Consulting Group, and I think we even talked about it with Christopher Ågren when he was here from Tira Division X, and there is a quote, and I've used that at conferences where I was pushing my ideas to HR people, where I basically went up on stage and say, do you realize for the AI revolution, the HR department is more important than the IT department? You know, as a provocative quote. And the 10-20-70 rule is that to succeed with AI is 10% about getting the algorithm right, 20% about getting the data and the whole product stack right, and 70% around getting the organization, practices, people, and talent right. So it's a people problem and ways of working problem over a technology stack problem and an algorithm problem. And this was like a famous storytelling approach of BCG. And I stole it and used that in an HR analytics conference. And I think that is really telling what we are talking about right now, that how will we ever succeed with the AI and be on the right side of the AI divide and all that if we don't even know how to get the right people in the right way?
No, and the funny thing is, I actually read before I came here, I was like, svenskar and the internet. I read through that just quickly because I remembered it said something about AI and how we're adopting that in the future. And I started looking through the numbers, like the skepticism about AI, and a third of Swedes are very skeptical, and the impact that AI will have, it will have a negative impact, I would say, on the future. And when they broke it down into, I'm going to talk about gender here because it's very relevant, because HR is a department which is predominantly female, and the females were more skeptical towards AI than the male respondents were. So imagine then people within HR departments being skeptical about using AI. Well, no wonder we're at where we're at today. It's like it's data backing what we're all feeling and sensing.
Interesting.
But it reminded me slightly of a topic not related to HR, but this whole idea that these people that would benefit the most from adapting it is also the person that will lose the most. Meaning, if you look back on communication in the early days of social media, the one on agencies that would benefit the most for learning how to use data in their marketing, they would benefit the most from it, right? The creative director, etc., the one that was sitting there in the corner office. However, that person would then have to give up on the corner office. You're not the owner of what's good. And I think actually this is equivalently true for this. You are not the owner of that anymore. If you have a system that's doing it, who are they then? Who would they be?
So you think this is part of the core root challenges here that we need to address correctly?
No, I'm started thinking maybe this resistance or this kind of tröghet. Yeah, kind of skepticism, kind of, it's not really moving.
Inertia.
It doesn't really happen. And maybe this is because of this, because they actually have the most to lose on this.
And what do you mean lose in terms of corner office, in terms of
I mean, being
power,
replaced.
Being replaced?
I mean, if you're sitting there collecting CVs, scanning keywords, doing these things, and I don't know, it's not like it's hard to replace or build that. I mean, it's
but how much is...
Even Anders said, I built some of my own.
But for me, this is a huge difference in if that's HR compared to what is truly people and talent management, which is, in my opinion, something completely different. So if they have sort of backed into that administrative corner, the way out of that is, of course, to retake the seat at the C-level table around talent management, which is then super complex and super interesting. Yeah. So I mean, like, so they're not playing the
before
game.
we jumping into any more rabbit holes.
Yeah,
we
that's
need to do an introduction as well
Damn it, rabbit.
of Stefan Wendin. So please, who is Stefan Wendin? How would you describe your background? And I'm looking forward to hearing this.
He can't do it. He can't.
I can't do it. That's the thing. Can somebody else do it for me? No, but I think for me, my biggest thing during my entire career has been kind of running in between technology and the business side or the people side. For me, technology alone is just technology. It's fun for me to build, play, and do these things. So in my early days when we're producing music, we have a classical memory of when I helped producing Latin Kings, a Swedish kind of hip hop band early on. Half of the time I wanted to show them my new innovation that I built, which was an organ of vacuum cleaners. They weren't impressed by it, and neither should I have been. But that's also figuring out like my nerdiness on these things, right? But then I learned like, it needs to sort out some problem for someone.
It needs to have usefulness and value.
Exactly, not just building shit for building shit.
Vacuum cleaner organ. Ooh, this is Shinduku.
Yeah.
Have you heard about Shinduku?
No, tell me more about it. He's going to freak out now. This introduction is going
It's already screwed. Shinduku is unuseful inventions. And this is a big thing in Japan.
Yeah.
So if you Google Shinduku, you get all the craziest inventions that obviously is completely useless.
I saw one really good. It was a walking tomato feeder. As you walked, it feed you tomatoes. It's like a pretty awesome thing if you like tomatoes.
Awesome if this is Shinduku.
If that's your thing.
All right, sorry, Anders.
No, but I think coming back to the introduction then, I learned early
Bring
on. Bring it back. Hold it in, come here. What wasn't in this Coke that you gave me?
Coke.
And we have to do a break here.
No, please.
No, but I think I learned early on, like, it needs to be applied. It needs to solve something, right? And I think that's what I spend majority of my time doing, understanding how I could use technologies to solve things for people. And then doing so, I learned that every single freaking one of us are super lazy. So if I can solve it easier and faster and give you more value, you're going to give me money or something of value that I can then exchange for money. Meaning that, there was kind of a aha moment here because early on, every single recruiter, talent partners told me, Stefan, you need to either stay in the technology lane or you have to go in the business strategy lane. You cannot be in both. It is very confusing. For them, and because it didn't fit the box, right? It didn't fit the table. Which table should I store you in?
But this is another parker on the list, Anders, because now we're getting to the point where, the old school fitting him into boxes is completely one of the bigger problems.
Data structure actually matters.
For the future of AI, to think like that when you recruit is problematic. Or even if you have those boxes and now you're trying to recruit, they won't tell you the answers of what you need. But let's park that. Anders. Sorry, don't.
I can't even summarize it. I don't even know what to. Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Oh my God.
Please carry on.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah. So without further ado, let's carry on. Back from the break. So what I really do is figuring out how to use things, right? But also equally figuring out what happens to us when we use things. So I built technology for people to use to solve problems, but that in turn changing the way we act. And I think on this topic, for example, the kind of ChatGPT madness of writing, right? We all seen it in the realm of blah, 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 blah. This is the classical opening, knowing that, here comes the content from GPT. But I think equally so, that is now, we can totally see that, but I'm pretty sure we will start also acting, maybe not on that cheesy line, but we will pick up on these things because we are pattern machines as humans, right? We mimic what we see around us, and if that's what we see, we do so.
I still would try to put you in a box. Which
he had enough now. Red lamp.
No. I'm just trying to find a way to categorize you, to tag you, to put it in. I don't know. No, but is it more into change management? You would say? Is it more into business innovation, product innovation?
Make it understandable.
Oh God. So very simply, I solve problems using technology, making money for people.
Making money, solve problems.
At the end, that's what I do, right? I take things, I say, but this, with this, solve this. In the aggregate, it solved this. Yeah. And in the aggregate of that, it creates a new product. So equally on the kind of frog or kind of, ground level, but equally confident going on the 10,000 feet or whatever. Awesome. So I think my greatest skill is actually that kind of untangling of spaghetti then, if one would say.
I think it's awesome that we actually can.
my role is untangling spaghetti guy.
I mean, I think it's awesome to have these people that actually do connect different areas, and I think you are a perfect example of that. So,
and the challenge with the guys who is connecting things is that it's hard to put them in the different boxes that is connecting.
Yeah.
So it's the connector.
Yeah.
You're a connector.
Oh yeah, very good. Actually, that's when I did one of those personality craps. That is come up connector.
You've done one.
Yeah, because I hate them, and then I need to do them before so I can see what I hate.
But it's then if we put you down as the connector,
yes,
your time at Neo4j is perfect.
Yeah, connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots.
That's a meta kind
it's
of
thing. It's a meta view
awesome.
why you should work in a company.
Dots.
Yeah. So he's the. What do you use Neo4j for? He's the human incarnation.
It's a spider in the web.
No, but I think...
But it's a good one. Because
it's a good one.
And the core connecting nodes is technology and problems of business.
And people.
And people. Yeah.
Good. Cool. Should we move to a serious topic?
I love how you also introduced a serious topic. I'm really up for a serious one. What do you say, Alex?
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
We'll take it and
so as you can see, we are just making lists here.
Hej and välkommen till listmaskinen.
Okay, but thinking about recruitment, and you've both been in the field, you for 15 years, and I guess you even more, Stefan. If you were to try to just characterize a bit, what has happened in the last 15, 20 years in recruitment, can you see some kind of trends? Can you see some kind of evolution, some kind of change that happened over the last decades? Anyone that wants to start?
I don't know. I can start in the last year, but I never applied for a job really, so it's very hard for me to because I wouldn't fit the box. So
but I think it's Alex's question because
I think it would be
because you were sort of reflecting on when you started with no LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then and we talked before, like how we could be sort of compartmentalized, and you are the tech person, and I think you put it really well upstairs. Like some of those views and models, dogmatic views of how you do recruitment, is simply out of the window today because we are living in the intersect or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you could take us through that thinking or that maturity of a point of view on this, I think you have it.
I mean, looking at this, there's nothing that's really changed, which I find really interesting throughout these years.
That's an observation in itself, right?
What do you say? What the way the industry works?
The way the industry works has looked the same throughout the years.
Interesting.
What's different, at least this is my perspective, what's different is that you can do the same thing that we've always done faster, bigger. Like AI is enabling us to sort of keyword search, but you have a computer or a robot that does it for you. So it's still the same sort of traditional way of doing things on steroids.
So it's a kind of a lift and shift moment here where we have the same kind of processes that we had in the past. It's just doing them a bit more efficiently using technology.
And here we have an internal joke. It's the digitization versus digitalization. So we have an analog way of doing things that we've always done that we put on steroids. So data and AI sugar coated the analog process. And in reality now, is that the right process when we are now moving into where we are today?
Exactly.
Is that a summary?
Yes, I would say so.
I think it's a very good summary.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this as well. So how do we solve the problem? And I think it's got to do with actually educating people what you're supposed to be doing with all of these tools, because we're still, I'm not saying that we're manually going through CVs like I did way back when, but today there's still like a AI doing it for you. But what they do is
the analog way. They're mimicking the analog way faster and at scale.
Exactly. So I don't really.
And I guess that's one of the core parts of the recruitment process, that you still have the resumes and you still have it to this day, and it's not really that different in terms of how you submit.
No. And then you say that you have predictive validity by having all of these psychometric tests or GMA testing and stuff like that. And don't get me started on that.
That's for the list.
That's for the list.
Yes, add that to the list.
Because those valuation methods today, they're a bit outdated, or I would say very suggestive.
Are we speaking psychometric testing?
Yes.
Okay. But add it to the list. So we
add
have
it
that.
to the list.
Yes, perfect.
But I think also tapping into what you were thinking and change and the frequency of things, right? We're hiring more people faster, and the need for more advanced nuanced role is getting greater. So one of the problem here is, I think we're still stuck, or a lot of these, I mean, take whatever they called, like Workday, success factors, whatever, sorry, SAPs and whoever built these, but they can't even manage to parse a freaking CSV file. I tried actually with one. I tried to figure out what is the actual format for this crap to be able to read it. It wasn't CSV. It wasn't a single format. Nothing could make it read it, which is like, how can you even build a system that is this bad? How can't you even 2024 figuring out how to OCR a document? Even if it's even a comma separated file.
For this is the way we integrate in resumes in some way, or have some way to, in a digital way, integrate the systems.
I mean, you still have systems that actually apply via LinkedIn. And then when you do that, they ask you for,
fill it in now.
Can you fill in your CV? Yeah, and it's just really?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. It's beyond me.
But let's unpack. Let's stay a little bit in the problem discovery phase now.
Okay. Yes,
because I think let me be provocative. Why is this a problem? Because there are technological problems that are simply working with stupid protocols and standards that we could have moved away from, that made the data of the CV much more relatable in machine readable, so to speak. This is one problem. This is just poor technology. Yeah. But if we're digging into the core problem of, is it a problem that we have the old way of thinking about recruitment and then putting it on steroids? What is wrong with the underlying recruitment process the way or is it something wrong with it? Maybe it's perfect. A little bit like you said,
maybe it's perfect. Are you drunk?
No, not yet. Provocatively, you tell me why it's not perfect.
Yeah, no, but I think the problem here is thousandfold, right? So I think that we cannot separate the technology from the actual problem because they're intertwined. We create systems, system creates us. That's how we think, that's how we act. So one of the problems here is if you have a system where I can't even input a CSV that I spend 4 hours formatting for you, if it's that bad, most likely it's going to be equally bad in the mental model of the person on the other side. Because if it's hard for me to put shit in, imagine receiving that shit on the other side. Imagine what type of person stays in that situation and think that this is a good thing. It's not going to be the one I want to talk to, that's for sure. But equally the problem now, because then we can add smart technology to this. And I think I did a fun thing. I scraped a little bit of LinkedIn, and then I looked for prompt parts in job descriptions. Oh my freaking God. They didn't even remove the part of their kind of recruitment's prompt thing. So they have a prompt structure, which is even in the ad, which is like, come on.
So you mean it's so obvious to use ChatGPT to write it, and the prompt is still there?
Yeah, and this is nothing new. This is the same thing that happened before, if you think about these things, right? So how is it usually when you need to recruit people and you have to recruit shitloads of people? Maybe you are in a hypergrowth company. Maybe it's
the prompt is a template that you fill in.
Yeah. No, but equally true the same. Like, we need to hire one. Who should we do? Who is that? And then you scrape some shit together and put that there. And then that poor recruiter then try to write that in a nice, neat way, structured, which then goes out to a list where you kind of check for keywords, but that list, nobody really cared. They just put some in. You copy pasted an old thing. and do so. And now we do that, but we do it with a computer, so it goes even faster.
So we've scaled up shit.
Yeah, shit in, shit out, and now we heated it up and put it in a fan like this. Put that on the list if you want.
I'm not going to.
Put it on your shit list.
Okay, so,
All right, so
but let's assume that for sure there is a problem. We have not seen innovation in recruitment for a long time.
No.
What can we do then? If we move, can AI be of some assistance here? Can we find a way to improve the system?
Oh, this is fun. This is what we talked
about. This is all you, yeah.
No, but we can talk about it together, I guess. That's why we're here. No, but I think one part is that people should be able to do this better. And then nothing happened. And then Alexandra shared some stuff with me that I could check out. I'm not going to put out any names, but there's a family of GPT recruiters. Again, the problem is that we do not understand.
When you say GPT recruits, what do you mean?
Kind of ChatGPT equivalent part. So it's the classical chat interface, upload whatever job description.
So it's a service that you have and it has a language model in it. So.
Yes. So it
the fan.
Yes.
It looks it looks extremely good on the surface. You get it back, it's scored and everything. It looks super impressive. But I'm like, but if this is built on a transformer structure, how can this take care of the problem of in and out of distribution? Because if you're looking for a job, what is the first thing that you would likely do? You will go to your LinkedIn and you will update your profile, meaning that that training data set is not the one representing reality, right? I even tried this with 4 of them. I took persons from the company, took their LinkedIn, we created exact job descriptions, so to the fact that it was like, it needs to be working in X, having a podcast called AI After Work podcast, and it needs to know these people that runs a conference over here. It's like, it's that detailed. Page 47, which is the problem, like using such a technology without, for example, a RAG pipeline or whatever, to at least have some sort of accuracy. So again, we have a belief that we have a solution to something, but we're using technology, I would argue, in the wrong way.
In the wrong way in this case.
So lift the shift again. So you just use AI in this case to just scale up the old process.
Yeah, the old kind of thinking in that way. And it looks super good. It looks super neat. But at the end, it's just that with now golden dust on top.
And I mean, to make it a bit more understandable and relatable is like a recruiter, what you basically do when you search for candidates is you do a keyword search
right.
On LinkedIn, or if it's GitHub, or if it's any other platform where you potentially can find candidates, right? And then you get a robot, AI, whatever you call it, doing that for you. So that means it's limited to my knowledge of which keywords to put in.
Right.
Yeah. That's the crucial part in all of this. And that's how the recruitment industry has been looking for the last 15 years.
So the recruitment industry actually boils down to a large degree to this fundamental dogmatic mechanism.
Yes.
And why is that a problem? Because you said it, because it's puts all the effort on this keyword search on the most junior job in the whole firm.
Yeah.
Because the person who gets puts on this job is like, that's like, okay, you're not recruited yet. You need to do the garbage shit. You will be the keyword person, and you will do this. And regardless if you use a computer or not, it's the least experienced person putting in the keywords.
Yeah.
That is sort of hardcore.
That could be a problem as well, but due to the fact that we don't know anything else, people are like, hooray, I can do my job much faster, I can get more results, and I can give this to my hiring manager, and they will have 10 CVs instead of waiting 2 weeks or 2 months for me to find something. I can find something in a day.
Yeah, so instead of going for effectiveness, we are going for efficiency without thinking about, are we solving the right problem?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we actually think we solved the right problem. I think that's where the problem lies. Instead of looking upon how would you think, if you think about every single one of us knows, if I say a talented person within X, you will think of a person, right? It's very simple. We know this as humans. if we start unpacking, what is the foundation of that knowledge? Why did I come to that conclusion? It's going to be a super tight network of different things. It will be the persons, the role over time. It will be the influence, how they talk, how they write, how they think, what they have built.
Their friends, their community.
Their friends. To quote the classical study with Dr. Fowler, like all data about your friend's friends is more predictive than any of the data about you, which is one of my favorite studies. I think it's actually 1.7 steps out, so not really 2 persons, but I can't cut you in half. And
it says 1.5 person out. If I look at that data, I get more about you than you would ever.
Yeah. Which is kind of bizarre. And that's also how I guess we ended up here, because that's how you connect with people. But if we think of this, a system would rather benefit from lots of weak signals, pretty much how I would solve, for example, a fraud investigation for a bank working at my time at Neo. So it's going to be very easy to find the highly 100% fraudulent ones, right? Yep. This is the very bad criminal.
These are the lazy, stupid criminals.
Me using your social security number, obviously fraud. You cannot have 2 of them. But instead thinking of this person shows up very close to bad activity several times, not necessarily doing anything, but it keeps showing up.
This is the compounding effects of weak signals that you're looking at.
That's what I'm thinking, and I think we could do the same with talent. But what are you thinking, Anders?
No, I'm thinking about the lovely quote that you had, that people around you is more predictive than the data you actually have about yourself. And to me, when I think about that, given that I worked at Spotify before as well, I'm thinking directly about song recommendations.
Yeah.
When you take a song recommendation, the normal approach you take is collaborative filtering, which doesn't look at all at the song itself. It doesn't look at the content. It doesn't look at the artist. It doesn't look at the title of the song. The only thing it looks at is what other people similar to yourself has listened to this song. So that's the collaborative filtering part. And I'm kind of thinking, why doesn't we have more of these kind of recommender systems for recruitment purposes?
I think they do. That's the problem.
Yeah. By
these rankings and stuff that's going on.
But I haven't seen any.
But the interesting part then is like you need to unpack it, and you need to think about different techniques, and you need to really think about solving the real problem. Yeah. And then you need to really unlearn to relearn around the topic. You need to go down to first principles, to quote Elon Musk.
Got it in there.
First time this year.
Oh no,
not the last
the Elon count. You should have brought it down here.
Yes. That's it. No, but I think there are, as you say, so many like old type of techniques that they still use to find people. And I guess if we try to break it down to a couple of problems, since recruitment is actually a very super important one for myself personally, and I've been thinking bit about it, but for one, it's the matching problem, right? You have a job ad and you have people, and you need to match them and find, is this the person that is related to this job or not? So it's a matching problem. It's like a Tinder problem, but between the employee and employer. And then the second problem is really the quality problem. Given that you have a set of potential candidates, how can you rank them in some way? And then you have a lot of things to do there, and you have interview techniques or other ways to do that. But at least these two, I think, are 2 core issues. Like, for one, match it, and secondly, rank it. Would you say these are at least 2 of the major problems that we need to find or solve somehow?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the matching part for me is where we need to start. Because given the situation today, we don't know which roles are going to be out there that are needed for an organization like in 2 years' time or so. And that's the big issue with all of this as well. How do you predict future capabilities in a role that doesn't exist?
Right.
And that's where this predictive validity can come in and actually give you some kind of insights as to this person, regardless, or given their competencies today, regardless, they probably perform well in whatever.
So the matching problem is a massive one, because it's about matching in the short term, medium, and long term.
Yes.
And this is and then of course, basic CV recruitment on keywords. We joked about it. Oh, you need to recruit an attitude or a talent. What the hell that is? But this is the core problem. How do you So how do you go about that thinking then? How do you think about that even today? Because you need to solve this today.
Yeah.
The matching problem.
Yeah. I'm looking at this guy.
No, I want to hear yours. How do you tackle that today? Because you need to tackle this on a daily basis.
Yes, we kind of do. Looking at today, we use a lot of these GMA testing or psychometrics.
Should we move there to this topic?
Shall we go there? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Can I go to the bathroom then?
Yep. Oh, sure. Absolutely.
No, I'm joking. It's just that I wasn't interested of the topic. Sorry for my bad sense of humor, everyone.
Sorry for my bad sense of humor. I didn't understand it. Okay.
Lack of humor, bad sense of humor.
But I guess that moves more into the ranking issue, how to rank people. And what's your, there are a number of different tests you can do, standardized tests and whatnot. Can you just give a quick description and your thoughts about them? If you have psychometric tests in some way.
No, but
I can do it.
Is there no value at all?
Okay, I can tell you about my experience and why I have a sort of negative feeling or thought about them. Throughout my years doing all of these psychometric testing, there are predominantly three things that pop out. The first one is a lot of people feel as if, I thought you were looking for these characteristics, so I replied these.
I went into a role and tried to imagine which box I should.
And that's problem number one. Problem number two is basically looking at the logical part, because that's also a part in all of this. You can train yourself to get better at these tests.
Like the IQ test part.
The IQ test part, yes. I've done it several times.
It's a rabbit hole there, but I'll bite my tongue for now.
Yeah, you can, but it's based on my experience, because I've done a lot of these tests, and I'm like, I wonder if I can train myself to become better at these. And I did. I was like top 1 percentile.
99% of these companies selling these tests also offer training so you can get better at the test, which is just literally, if you look upon what you're actually validating, you're validating how desperate one person would be to pay to learn to do a test to get a job.
It has some merit, but
maybe the measure is actually submissiveness, and that's what they're looking for. Then now I get it why I never get any job.
I think there are different types of tests. Some of them are horribly bad and you can train, but there are some.
I'm talking to the general mass here, and the third part is sort of like I think you're talking about is like, I need to evaluate the candidate. I have to go through the results, which means I'm putting all of my bias into this. There are 188 cognitive biases. To think that I can evaluate a candidate and not be biased because I'm trained in the system is just like nonsense. So that's the third issue. And then there's a couple of other issues as well. But we can start with those three.
But and of course, these approaches has evolved over time.
Yes.
Because we couldn't find better ways in a practical way to do matching, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like pest eller cholera, also a little bit like, because not doing any matching at all or doing something even more stupid. So they've had usefulness and merit, and we've been challenged to figure out a better way to do these matching problems.
Or ranking.
Or whatever. Right. Like, so
ranking, for one, these kind of standardized tests, they test some kind of the G factor, as it's normally called. And that's some, it's the underlying intelligent score.
The G-faktorn. I never heard that before, by the way.
You're thinking of something else. Let's not put that on the list.
I thought,
no, don't.
Anyway,
we're going to go to a short break, and we apologize for any inconvenience that may have been caused.
IQ scores, that's one estimate of the G factor, the general intelligence kind of factor.
General intelligence.
And then, of course, it doesn't really measure what you really are hiring for, potentially. Exactly. So it's very general and it's not specific, and it may be completely off-putting or wrong for the job you're hiring for. So, but at least it's general. that could be some base, but then you can have other stuff you can do. You can do interviews. You can have them having like home exams or homeworks that they have to do, or you can do this kind of, standing in the board and doing live kind of testing. What are the best way then? If psychometric test is not good, how should people rank people?
Over to you.
How should people rank people?
Because we've been discussing this, and I haven't yet seen a good way to do this on the general mass, because you tend to want to do these tests when it comes to large scale recruitments, right? Or you do in general, like for the final candidates or whichever stage of the process. And it's not tailor-made for the position, just like you said. And I haven't found another way of doing this. And that's actually where we started talking about this as well, because there needs to be another way.
Yeah. And I think it needs to be a very easy to do thing. I remember we spoke so much, in saying, okay, you have 1 week to do this kind of home exam thing, and you have to submit it in 1 week, and then we will review it. But it was very biased. Some people have kids at home, they have so much to do at home. Now they are completely free and have all the weekends and perhaps even are not working at all at the time. And they have so much more time than other people have. So it's not really a fair comparison then.
No.
So I guess what you want to have is some kind of way to measure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say, but you need to measure people still, right?
Yeah, of course you do.
But you need to have it in a way that takes as little time and effort as possible, but gives as high value as possible. And what that is, I have no idea. But
no, that's why we're here.
Yeah, but maybe it's also about understanding or coming to sense with the fact that you're just insecure, and that's why you're measuring. Because you
need to rank them still, right?
I don't know. If I would like to
choose who to hire otherwise?
No, but it depends a little bit. And I think if you were to hire on something that you know about, you would immediately know if a person would work. Like if you hire from someone,
if I take some experience from Spotify, we have 2,000 applications.
Yeah.
We are going to hire 10 of them.
Yeah.
What do you do?
But that's one problem, right? And then you have for those tests really works. In the screening out, give me 50, and then I would do the other one. Then I would argue they might work, right? There are even scientific studies proving that they actually are good for that job, not for the end between two persons. And I think the problem is not using it for the 2000s. It's an early screener and okay, but the problematic part is a lot of people are using it for the final with maybe 3 candidates. And then it doesn't even have scientifically proven. It's actually suggested not to use it, and yet still we use it. And I think the reason for that is that they're too cheap to give the 2000 the test. So they just screen out and then they use it as almost this kind of thing. No, but I did the test, therefore, if this person fail, I cannot get fired because I have evidence. And I think that's actually a lot of the parts, the way we use it, rather than finding the right person. And then the question would be, wouldn't it be better to educate the people, looking for people, to actually understand what the company are looking for and spending more time in that? I think that would be actually
some people
better.
are better at the job than others still, right?
Absolutely. And that's the future of recruitment. Yeah. It's like there's going to be a seismic change.
Yeah.
But the industry isn't understanding that yet. That the shift from what recruiters do today is not going to look the same in a couple of years.
And what's going to be?
Yeah. This is the $1 million question here. This is the unicorn question.
Yes.
Yeah, the $10,000 question.
No, I mean, there's only, as far as I can see it, I think that we're going to shift towards, you need people within talent that knows data and knows how to handle AI predominantly and understands it. So people within HR and TA, they need to upskill themselves. Because I think a part of the problem in all of this also is the fact that HR tends to, or TA, I say TA and HR they belong together because usually talent acquisition is a part of HR. The underlying problem is like, you're supposed to upskill entire organizations and focus on that. What about HR? When are they upskilled? And when do you actually prioritize upskilling and reskilling them?
Because if I follow you right now,
they're forgotten.
No, because if you're upskilling the domain competence in capabilities of data and AI, they will reinvent themselves based on their new know-how around AI, and they will have a more balanced understanding of how the data of a psychometric tests is working and not working, versus the Fowler example that I think is there are other methods that you could do in order to build a more sharp matching.
Absolutely.
But what you're saying now, then it starts with data literacy or AI literacy in order to figure out how to innovate.
Yes. And that's forgotten.
But I guess we can have an analogy to education in this case, and how people actually do homeworks these days in an AI-based future where everyone has access to.
Fun.
It is.
Because, it really changed how people can do homeworks, I guess, in some case. And I guess the same can be argued for how you do your job in the future.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So the people then that potentially have access to AI can, if they do know how to use that, they can do their job so much better than people that cannot.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, we tried with Copilot with the big consultancy with 20K people. First 2 weeks, we have a 60 to 65% uplift in productivity, which is literally like...
Mind-boggling.
No, it's like... What happened? I look at the data over and over, and then the quality is there. The fact that they just don't have, and this is a very kind of old traditional SQL heavy, so it's a lot of scripts that write codes. So a lot of those long list of codes, right? So the fact that they didn't even have to type it actually was the majority of this. Now they can focus on the quality of it instead.
They can focus on the logic instead of the coding of lines.
And I think this is so interesting, and I think that's what's going to really change to that topic. I actually did a test on this on the topic of learning with Hyper Island. I usually bash Hyper Island on one thing. They're amazing in the creativity.
For the record, you've been working there for 13 years or something.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm a fan. But then the more you love something, the more you also have feedback about it, right? At least that's with me. No, but one of the things that I say is like, we shouldn't be afraid of actually doing coding because they're primarily focused on non-technical skills. They also have technical skills, but you wouldn't have, if I go to KGH and I will teach about graph neural networks, that will be a complete other lecture, right? But then I was like, no, it doesn't have to be like this. So this year I had a stupid experiment or a stupid idea, as I always have. So I said, okay, back to your idea of Spotify. We're going to build a recommendation engine running on a graph neural network in 1 week without any prior knowledge of coding. We're going to build it on Neo4j. Here's how you download it. Here's the data set. I took a data set that I got from Spotify. I also effed it up. So it has the classical data engineering problem. So they had to clean it. There's the duplicates. It's the wrong format. So all different letters scrambles. The classical things. They had to figure out how to normalize things and so on and so what, and import it, write that. What is very funny of this is that this is before the update of GPT-4, meaning it's trained on Neo4j 4.
Wow.
They have to use Neo4j 5 to be able to run the vector stuff that we're going to be used later on. So they can't actually ask it. If they ask it, it's going to give you the complete wrong answer. So what they have to do is do some sort of memory prompting, right? They have to go to the documentation, take the syntax out, put it in. I'm trying to do this. How would I do it for this example? Meaning they actually learn how to use technology. And I was thinking, there were 50 people in this class, and I was like, will this ever work? I was like, why did I come with this idea? It's completely stupid. What blew my mind, at the end of that week, 3.5 days, 8 of the groups showed up presenting a recommendation. All of them tackled the problem of a good recommendation is not recommending a song that are alike. Because if I like Taylor Swift, I don't need 10 more Taylor Swift songs.
Exactly, yeah.
I need something that
diversity.
I didn't know that I liked. That's when I get the epiphany moment. This is when I tell my friends. And they all did it, which literally shook me to the core of which part of knowledge is it that we actually are measuring and what should we be measuring? So what I look when I trying to find people is how they think about these things, how they think about creativity, how they think about grit, for example, how they think about persistency in these things. And I'd rather have a discussion about if the person worked in a bar, or a photography assistant, or any other slightly humiliating work, which is just grinding, right? For me, that's actually more valuable.
But perhaps that's a good segue into a question more about, one, of course, is to test what kind of facts you know about, how is C++ programming happening, and less details about that.
That's what you're looking for in the CV. That's your comfort blanket.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing today. Yeah.
It is to a large extent, right? But then you could also be more personality testing, saying you're more of a creative person. Perhaps you have these kind of big 5 ocean models where you can see if you're openness and conscientiousness and agreeableness and whatnot. Is that something we are lacking a bit today? We should be more on the personality types rather than the fact-checking type, or do you think?
There are these tests, but the majority of these is when you have to you get a questionnaire. This is a made-up scenario. How would you react? And then you have 4 that you need to pick, right? Mm. You should be very stupid if you don't know which one to pick already there. But what is equally interesting, I actually did this with with an interview that I was, because I refused to do those because they can explain it, why it has a value, and then I will do it. They haven't passed yet. But what is equally fun that I added the CEO of the company into the thing, because that's the one I had the discussion with to that. And then we had that bouncing back and forth and explain why it didn't work and so on. Now we have a very long list of a conversation, which is a real conversation. I took that, I pre-trained a little model on the framework that they actually are using for the valuation. I said, here we have a real scenario. Let's see how we compare on this. And I sent the data of me, the CEO, the recruiter, and the recruiting manager. They weren't super happy about that.
No one got the job.
They didn't score high on the thing they were looking for, which is also interesting. So one thing that is actually interesting is the ability to use, for example, language model to structure these and look for things and then do the analysis on that. And you can do this on interviews as a backdrop, how people handle these situations. And now we're starting to get
more interesting
to an interesting kind of gut feeling of these things and segment these out. So I think that's what I'm looking for, to see more of those kind of things, because now we are mimicking again how we take decisions. And it's not so easy to hack it in that same way, because if you have...
Alexandra, back to the whole thing that, we got into it by saying like, well, I'm actually looking for grit. Or something else. Actually, that's going to be the denominator. Or I'm looking for how sharp or how willing you are to learn.
Yeah.
So one hypothesis, we are going away from the economies of scale to the economies of learning, right? Fundamental adaptability is the number one game. The way we get efficiency is that we constantly adapt things.
Yeah.
Then the CV is completely irrelevant, because that CV will be updated every 2 years. So it's our skill rate or adaptability to change that I want to measure. But what are we looking at then? Where does that lead us in terms of what you're matching on? And you said it right. You have this. You're trying to find the attitude or something like that. Like there are tests for this, I guess, as well. But I think that's a big shift in the matching game, as is not matching on the competence requirements. It's matching on grit, ability to learn, ability to adopt.
100%. That's what we need to do.
And what are the what are the current ways to match on those things compared to the CV things? What is some of these tests, right, is there. What else? What do we use in reality?
Perhaps we can get back to that shortly, and because in some way you need to also know that the person has skill in some kind of job, but then it's more the balance between personality, general intelligence, and knowledge is something that is a bit hard to figure out. But perhaps, Goran, we should have a middle break here.
Yeah.
Is it dancing time?
It's time for AI News.
Dancing time.
Brought to you by AIMW Podcast.
So we have added this kind of section in the middle of the podcast where we just had a short break speaking about some personal favorites, news items that happened in the last couple of weeks. And each of one of us can choose to bring up a topic if you have any. If you don't, feel free to ignore. But if you have, try to summarize it in 3-4 minutes if you can. Anyone that wants to go first?
Holy crap, I can go.
Yes, awesome, Stefan.
Super excited. No, I just came back from South Korea and I met with a lot of really interesting people. Yeah. Primarily two things. One in the ability to train models on visual input, video and such, which is super cool. But one thing that really blew my mind is the small language models.
Yeah, awesome. I love it.
I never tried it and I couldn't believe it. This is like the equivalent of me connecting to internet. I was shocked. I downloaded it. I can't get it to run here in Europe, but I run it in Korea for like a couple of weeks. I downloaded it. It just helped me with my writing, like real time on anything within my operating system.
Remember the name of it?
It's from the Upstage team, a little one. So the same one that built Solar Model. And
so the idea with a small transformer is actually I can put it inside my laptop and I can run it in real time.
It runs all the time. And whenever you write something, it's there.
In real time, more or less.
Yeah.
And this is for me how it should work. This flipping back and forth.
No, but I didn't want to believe it. I had to even go turn off my Wi-Fi, even check that it didn't sneak out on my Wi-Fi in some weird way. It's like I didn't want to believe it because it was so magical. It was insane.
Was it like auto-completing or was it really like writing?
So I started I used it in different ways, but the classical kind of, you start writing something and then that little icon come up and then poof. And then you have like formal, informal. You can like auto-prompt it in some way, shorter, longer, use emojis, use not emojis, meaning that it takes whatever you write and then give you a suggestion how you can actually write it better.
Of the existing text so far?
Of the text that I started to write. So it has a little bit of an input, and on that input, it's like auto-completed-ish and styled it up into formal, informal, and these kind of things. So think of a tool like Grammarly, but real time in everything, everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, I've wrote in my kind of predictions for 2024 about small models and how excited I was.
As well, actually,
and then I was like trying it and I was like, I couldn't even predict how excited I was. Sorry, I just like get all like a kid here. The organ is going to come back. Vacuum organ.
I think that's one of the big trends for 2024, that we will have more efficient models, and that is going to democratize, if you can abuse that word a bit, to basically have any person.
And this is so that Gemini did the storyline with the huge, the normal and the small.
Yeah, the nano one. I think it's
the nano one, they call it.
No, and also I run it on my old MacBook. It makes sense. Yeah, I run it on my old M1 MacBook. So it's not of the super new ones. It's not, this is several years. I don't even know how old it is. But it worked like a charm. And meaning that's going to be in every single thing. Yeah. More or less.
It's to be everywhere.
So all of a sudden now you get to embed a language model inside a product of some kind.
Yeah. Equally as big as internet, I would argue. And I think now it's...
much more.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to be nice here. About internet, there's people here in the internet watching us.
Okay, so that's good news.
Alex, do you have anything you want to bring up? No. Okay. Good.
I was thinking we're going to go back to that topic about bring your parents.
Actually, that was the news.
That was the exactly.
That was the news topic that we can now bring into this, because if we're cutting it, there was an Instagram. There was a storyline around recruitment in US.
Yes.
Tell us the news, because this is news because it's
again
3 times.
It's enough now.
All right.
He has forgotten.
All right.
Goran will cut it back in.
Do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of stuff happening, and it was actually a number of weeks since we had the last podcast now over the Christmas holidays and whatnot. So it's hard to choose what to really pick up on. But the one I chose is actually something that I have mixed feelings about. It's called Alpha Geometry, and it's from DeepMind. And it combines this kind of traditional rule engines or symbolic engines with more language models. So in this case, it's in a math competition called the International Math Olympiad. And it basically became as good as the gold medalist, or between the silver and gold medalist of the best humans ever competing in this kind of math Olympiad. And it's in geometry kind of math type of tests. But of course, super impressive. What's new really in this one is it's not really the combination of having both rules or symbolic systems combined with neural network kind of solutions. That's been done a lot in this kind of hybrid system. But what's new is they used language models to do the creative part. So when they describe a bit what humans do is, okay, they can, use deductive rules to try to see how can I prove that this kind of geometry has X and Y property, and that they know the rules. The problem is that the thing that humans are really good at is coming up with rabbits, as they call it.
Yeah.
So the rabbit is this kind of weird thing. What if we add this kind of variable to the equation? And it comes from nothing. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. So you just have some kind of creative inspiration of what happens if we do this. And that is a really hard thing to do, especially for a computer, because it doesn't have any sense on why should you add this specific thing. So some kind of intuition is guiding humans in finding solutions for these kind of math problems. Now, what they were able to do better than anyone before was use large language models to do the creative part of pulling the rabbit out of the hat. I would say that they are basically taking the problem that a lot of people see with large language models, which is hallucination, that they just make up things that looks good, but actually using that as a feature.
Yeah.
So suddenly the ability for large language models to make up stuff becomes useful because it's still related. It's based on some kind of intuition that you can't really describe. It's just that, okay, let's add this in the language of math in this case. And suddenly they first try to do is just with rules. They may fail finding a solution. Then they ask the language model, please add a construct or a new rabbit. And then they try again, and it may not work. And you try a second and a third time. And then by adding a number of constructs, suddenly it finds a solution. It solves the problem. It finds the proof. And this kind of combination of using neural networks, large language models, to be the creative, hallucinating kind of part of humans, combined with the very deductive, logical kind of rule engine, is very fascinating, I think.
Yeah.
So this kind of creative part of being able to come up with strange things that you don't really have a reason for, intuition in some way, and you can call it hallucination if you want, is turning out to be really useful.
And what is the usefulness? Is it creating new ideas on this, or why is this useful?
I mean, they just use it to show that an AI model is as good as humans, more or less. But of course, in the future,
creative thought.
But I think,
in finding proofs for math problems. So
okay.
In the future, if you have another problem, let's say you want to solve one of the biggest problems of all, how you can combine quantum mechanics with relativity. We haven't been able to do so, but perhaps if we have a sufficiently intelligent AI system that can start to add constructs and rabbits, perhaps we will find a solution.
Yeah, because the point is that you're not going to solve the new problem with old thought. So you need to be creative in some sense to combine things, to be creative. Is that?
I mean, I think, to take humans are not logical. I would say that 90% of human thought, I heard someone else, I think it was my PhD supervisor, said that 90% of the human kind of reasoning is abductive. Abductive meaning it's not deductive, saying, if something is certain from a logical point of view. Abductive means basically you haven't proven it's wrong. You just make an assumption. I think a car will fly into this room. Prove me wrong. Or I think God exists. Prove me wrong. It's abductive kind of reasoning. And this is really what they are doing in this model is abductive reasoning. It's not deductive. So they're combining abductive with deductive reasoning, and the marriage between the two makes it possible to find mathematical proofs in a way we've never seen before.
So in a nutshell, abductive and deductive, or
deductive, yeah.
And this is one of the ways forward for next generation level mathematical problem solving, as an example.
Problems with the physical world that we have, for the economical world we have, for
but
the medical
those
world we
complex
have,
problems that you need to you need to find new ways to think about how to solve them, because humans has not solved them yet.
Yeah. Humans are too stupid to solve some problem.
Yeah.
We need AI.
I think it's also maybe the structure. I remember we talked about it last time I was here because I just wrote a piece on creativity in that sense and how I tried to formulate it into a differential equation, meaning if I can understand it so I can write it as some sort of equation or formula, then I understand it on a scalable level. One of those I mentioned an old thing that really blow my mind. There was this old kind of foldit. I don't know if you remember this. It's a protein folding game, fold.it. So it was for super nerd. This is before we have cloud computing, meaning that the biggest problem you have to solve if you have hard computing problems is where to compute on, meaning we have local clusters on universities and these things. Some of us are nodding and having good memories or painful memories, maybe. But one thing that I found also interesting with this case is that, you can sign up for this if you have a university account. You get a protein folding sequence. They're trying to solve the HIV problem, right? The scientific community have tried for 10 years solving this, solved 35%. All of a sudden, you get these small packages, they fold. Somebody has a stupid idea from another department, maybe in this case, the mathematical department or some other sec. Why aren't you trying this? This is not how we do protein folding. We all know how it would sound, right?
We need to be more creative. By the way, Alex, you had to leave at 1:30, right? Or what was it?
No, go on.
Okay. Otherwise, we need to focus a bit more before you have to leave on your kind of favorite topics.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
Awesome.
The list is long.
Awesome.
Henrik, please.
I mean, I'm gonna go with the example topic I mentioned to you. I mean, and I'm completely out of depth here, but I want to talk about it.
Completely out of depth.
Yeah, because I'm moving into his territory.
Okay, now I get it. I was like, what?
So I stumbled upon a paper by Google Research. It came out, I think, Tuesday, January 23rd. So it's this week. And it's about the X-former. So sparse transformers for graphs. So this is a paper that sort of indicates and gives design patterns for architecture for how you build transformers that are more sparse. And what does that mean? It means sort of how do you work in the whole transformer in a way that you don't really need to light up the whole neural network sort of thing. So it's expanded graphs, and it's about being way more efficient with compute and with energy and everything like that in order to find the right results. So I think the theme here, which I think is a trend, is how do we build things more efficient, and what are we talking about when we say sparse transformers and stuff like this. So I'm going to lean a little bit into you, Anders, here now, but I think the trend here is a little bit interesting. We started with the Mixtral, mixed experts type.
I want to read about it quickly.
And I haven't read the article, so I'm reading right now. And I'm trying to
But I'm reading here.
Don't be an expert. You don't need to be an expert. But I just find the interesting trend here. Yeah. We are trying to figure out how to not light up the whole neural network. Is the bottom line.
Yeah, and I haven't read the article, so I can't say anything smart about it. But I can at least give some kind of context, perhaps. And we know transformers have really transformed, pun intended, so much of the AI that we have, being able to use, sequences like words or even images in a way that we never seen before. So with the additional attention that they have in knowing what to focus on, they have really revolutionized how we can use AI. Now, to use it on sequences or images is one thing, but the most general kind of data structure you have is a graph in some way. A graph with nodes and vertices that you can connect to each other. And how can you use a transformer network then for graphs? That's a hard problem. When we sparse graphs, it basically means you have very few connections. In a social network, you have a few friends, but if you take 3 steps out of yourself, it's very few of the people that are connected to each other. So it's very sparse, and that becomes hard to represent. So they need to have a way to represent these kind of sparse networks and graphs in a good way. And I'm guessing, without having read the paper, that that's something that this can do.
So the bottom line of the paper is that when you have a sparse network and you're trying to do exactly that, it's actually not that many nodes happening in reality. But because this transformer doesn't know that, he needs to go over the whole fucking Facebook before he can realize that, that was just fucking 3 nodes. And now with the former, they're trying to figure out to circumvent that. So basically not going through the whole Facebook graph in order to find something that was quite easy to find because your network was in reality quite sparse. Yeah. Which is, if you think about it, lighting up every single person in Facebook in order to check, do you know Henrik? Rather than doing it in another way. It's about efficiency here. I think these kind of, the way I pick something out of my head competence-wise, but I think it's a trend. With the mixed expert approaches, with the nano approaches, with sparse network approaches, this is a major trend for 2024 around efficiency and smartness. So we're going to see, what is GPT-5? What's it going to be? Is it going to be more bigger? Is it going to be a mixed expert? What are the driving forces? One of the driving trends is efficiency, so we can use it in different ways, embedded and stuff like this. This is my sort of take.
I think it's a way to use transformers efficiently for a new structure, which is graphs. There's been other times, Robert Luciani loves graphs,
Yeah, he had this story.
He's been using transformers for that.
I was gonna ask Robert, because he used graph and transformer to solve traveling salesman's NP problem, and he had an idea, and he's been proving it, but no one understands what he did 2 years ago. And I think now we're getting
proving it. I don't know. I haven't still seen any.
Mathematically, he was claiming he could. He had his.
He could prove it. He didn't prove it.
I don't know. But he
claimed he could prove it. That's not proving it.
No, I was in a business meeting together with Robert with the guys at AI research at Volkswagen, talking about it's an optimization problem in the transport ecosystem. They didn't get it. Yeah. But in reality, like what he did is, thinking about transformers in a GNN and combining that smartly. And I think this is kind of going in this direction, I guess. I don't know.
I haven't read the article, so I can't.
But GNN and transformer are very alike anyhow.
Yeah.
Goran, do you have any topics as well, or should we move back to? Yeah, I know.
IPA topic.
So, okay, we skip it. Awesome. Let's get back to the topics, and you can stay for some more time. Right?
Yes, 7-ish.
7-ish minutes. Okay, but then
no, not 7-ish minutes. 7.
Okay, cool.
42-ish minutes.
Then we don't have. Otherwise, I was thinking, you can choose a set of topics that you most prefer, and etc. But
right.
Okay,
I think we should go there anyway. That she can choose.
I don't know.
Bring out the magic list.
Yes, where is the list?
But can we move to the resume part, perhaps, and just speak about resumes, because that's one of your thinking or writing about, how to move beyond resumes. So, what are you thinking there? Can we move beyond resumes in the future, you think?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I think once we do, it's going to disrupt the entire recruitment industry, because I think we're going to take one step further away from having a step in between sort of hiring employers and the candidates. I think that once that technology, because I think it's just a matter of when, not if, that's going to happen. And once it is in place, the recruitment industry as it is today is going to change, and they're going to have a tough.
But do you have any thoughts on what comes next in terms of resumes evolving into what?
Can we think like this? Maybe I got a stupid idea, because the resume is literally a snapshot of something. Exactly. What if this is real time? What if it's multidimensional? All of a sudden, it's not just a curated paper of something, but rather taking in consideration whatever is happening at the time, because the CV gets very outdated quickly. It doesn't take into consideration.
How would it work in practice?
Yeah, what is your vision?
I haven't thought of any architecture yet. No, it's just a stupid idea that I had now. I was like, what could be the difference part? I mean, one part is having a non-static one that actually interacts within that. So maybe now we're here talking, maybe that would update some score of something. For example, finding people alike doing the same thing would be a part of that. I'm just kind of having stupid thoughts here. It's not a solution in any way, but I'm just thinking of, if it's static, dynamic would be much more better. if we can read dynamic over time, of course.
But what is the driving force? Why it needs to be? Why you are so certain that we will evolve beyond the resume? What is the driving logic for that?
I think we touched on the topic a little bit earlier. It's the fact that we don't know, we can't predict what tomorrow looks like. And how do you hire for that? Because like you say,
perfect.
I mean, CVs are very static. It's a snapshot of your current sort of state, what you actually bring to the table right here, right now. And it's actually like I sit as an author of my CV, and I put in things that I think are necessary, but I mean, it's guesswork when you sit as a recruiter or a hiring manager on the other side. You have your idea of what the competencies need to look like. So, I mean, that's what it also like, it's static, you know, and the difficulty there is merging those two pictures together and giving the entire story about the background of the candidate, because it's much more than what it says on the paper.
But maybe that's a key word you used there.
Yeah.
We're using the resume as a proxy for I want to get your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get my story for the job at hand, and I want to get your story for the job at hand. At some point, we decided that the resume was the ideal proxy for that storytelling. What if I say, fuck that proxy, let's go back to the storytelling, and how would that look like?
Yeah, because I think also as soon as it becomes dynamic, it becomes the story. It becomes so much more vivid in that sense. And if we go back talking about prediction of GPT-5 and stuff, and how most likely we will be trying to both train and output video.
But how would it work in practice? I mean, how do you get to dynamic one? I'm trying to find some kind of metaphor or some kind of analogy to other areas of matching in some way. And I'm thinking Tinder, but Tinder is also very like profile of people kind of based.
It's resume based. It's
resume. And I mean, I don't have the clear answer right now. I just think it's based on our conversation. I just think it's possible, but nobody's actually doing it.
Yeah, but think of this. So maybe we're looking for, let's try to find some person which is outside of the normal scope. So we're looking for someone that has a known drive for thinking differently, has a strong grit of building or going to market with early scale-ups. Of course, you can measure this on a CV by looking upon company X, scale up fast. Company Y, scale up fast. So it can be captured, but very limitedly. However, this can be also captured. I mean, if we allow them to ask for that specific question, so instead of looking on the limited 2 pages of a senior CV, which would be the limit, I guess, still, I don't know. Instead saying, I'm very interested of these things, these 3 things. Now give me a condensed version of that person, because, I mean, the value of reading my LinkedIn and the articles I've written is more likely of gazillions of higher value than my CV in that sense.
Because
or this interview even.
Because when you're talking podcast now, I'm starting to imagining the product.
Yeah,
I can imagine a product. So if the starting point of the product is not, forget about the resume. We don't want the resume. We want a story.
Exactly.
And who can tell stories? ChatGPT, you can prompt them to tell story. And what is the RAG now? Oh, I want you to scrape LinkedIn on all the articles or posts and CV that Henrik has done. Yeah. And I want you to write me a compelling a story that puts Henrik in this perspective. Who is Henrik? So you can do this today. You can do a RAG with all the data that you get from my LinkedIn that I've done, and then you can load that in and see how.
Perhaps we need to just explain a bit what you're saying there. So because I think it's an awesome thing to say that we want someone, instead of having themselves write a static resume, to have an AI that writes a resume for the job ad I am having as an employer.
Exactly.
So then I'm saying, I want to hire a front-end engineer now. Now, given this person, you give some link to the LinkedIn profile, GitHub repository, or whatnot.
That's the data. That's the data.
And the RAG that you mentioned is retrieval augmented generation. So basically, they are adding data or using data from LinkedIn or whatever kind of source you have, and then using that to try to find a good summary I guess.
A storytelling about me.
How it's matching this kind of job role that you're having. I think this is actually a good idea.
This is not stupid, right? Because we know we need this storytelling for this job and this future. So you can do a storytelling about the job and the projection of the job.
And by the way, we're looking for investments. If you have any money, please send it to me directly, or Alex, or any of these two gentlemen.
This is not so hard to do, technically.
No,
that's the annoying part.
This is not so hard to do.
No. And that's what I mean. Like I don't know how to build this. But when we had this conversation and I started sort of putting your expertise together with my expertise from the recruitment industry, I was just like...
We literally had the guests on this podcast to build this unicorn.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
I think you can even use GPT Builder. So OpenAI have this kind of builder.
You can go that
without
way.
any programming skills. You can actually just add the data, tell it what to do, and it actually will do the work for you. So I think you could do it as well.
But I think
But I think the key here is the rag part, right? To have something.
Yeah, but
that actually are actual.
The key is not the rag part is the technical key, maybe.
Yeah.
But the key was what you said. Fuck the resume. I want your life story, and I want to match your story to the story of the job.
Yes.
So why, the resume is just a proxy.
Yeah.
So why are we stuck on the proxy when we can go straight to the jugular? Tell me, you know how you do this sort of Jeff Bezos, write me the press release of this product, a way to think about something. Write me the press release about the brilliance of this job and this career. This is one prompt. And then, match that with so it's very much storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all about storytelling.
It actually does a pretty awesome job. I tried putting my name in to GPT and it came out ish good. It was very marketing BS though.
We're just letting him suck from himself on the internet.
Yeah.
No rag.
No, he went sacking with Bing, and we all know how much I love Bing.
But it is ragging through Bing. This is very like a
but so all right. So we crack and the VC friends, I
give us a call.
But isn't it okay?
But this is potentially one part of the problem. Trying to find the matching, seeing how relevant is a person to a given job that we're having. I think also as an employer, to write a job ad is really hard as well. And
yes,
100%.
We need some help with that as well. So perhaps we even could have.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, please.
I was just like, I don't know why I thought I could finish your sentence.
Please do. Please do. I urge you to do.
It's going to be good.
He needs it.
No, but I mean, seriously, I think a lot of times companies don't actually know what they're looking for.
Yes. And they write horrible job ads, I think.
100%.
Living in.
And they even
use this company prompt for the job ad.
And they even lie a lot in job ads, saying,
Absolutely.
you're going to work as a data scientist. No, you're not. You're going to work.
You're going in the basement, not even data.
You're going to do dashboards in ClickView.
Which also brings me back, who owns the job descriptions?
Yes.
HR.
Yes, right.
Yeah. But what is actually cool with this, when I'm thinking of your idea now and this dynamically thing, because the problem with the job description and the one applying for the job is that you get a very little part of the actual market. Is it not rather interesting to go the other way around? I having this problem, who within my network of networks would be the best person to solve it? Because all of a sudden you're not looking for the one looking for a job. You're actually looking for the best person for the job, the best recommendation.
There is this system. It's called Horsefly Analytics.
Which the one you sent.
Yeah, it's basically like a labor market analytics. So what they do is like, I'm assuming it's called, I'm not a technical person, but this rag thing that you're talking about, I think that's what they do. So they take all of these information about from LinkedIn, from GitHub, all other aspects, and they put data together and they tell you, here's in Stockholm, for instance, looking at a Java developer, the demand is 100%. The candidates available is 10. there's a discrepancy there. You need to look for these candidates in, I don't know, Örebro, where the demand is 0, but there is a lot of candidates there. So that availability is already around, but nobody, they don't have any clients in the Nordics. And I'm just like, nobody knows.
So now you lifted the game to an aggregated problem and a macro problem, and it's equally interesting.
Yeah.
Because now you were thinking about matchmaking actually demand supply on a more macro level.
Exactly.
Equally interesting, of course.
Okay, so in interest of trying to catch, we have so many other topics here, and I know you also have. But okay, so let's say that we found a way to improve potentially the matching problem by having appropriate and dynamic resumes, but also job ads in a good way. And we match some people, and now we need to rank them somehow. Now you can rank them using hard skills. I know how to program Python, blah blah blah, and I have 3 years of.
I know English.
Yes.
This is a new program language.
Awesome.
But there are also soft skills. So thinking about the ranking problem, how to try to measure the hard and soft skills. Can we move beyond the current kind of, I guess, interviewing techniques or testing techniques or homework techniques or doing case studies on the whiteboard, or what's your thinking about the future of ranking people?
Is that not equally dynamic as the same thing, right? What if we can analyze things, videos, talks?
I mean,
things?
it's possible.
Yeah.
You have MetaView, for instance. I just think it's a matter of time before they add that kind of capability on top of their current sort of platform. Because what they do is they summarize your interview with the candidate. They give you suggestions on interview questions and pulls data. So I can type in, give me whatever they said about their weaknesses, for instance. So it prompts you back. This is a summary of what they actually said. But it puts a lot of responsibility onto the recruiter that actually sitting there. You need to ask the right questions. And how do you ask the right questions? You need to know what you're looking for, which takes you back to the original problem.
And then perhaps you can have some kind of AI-enabled kind of interview techniques that actually can have some kind of suggestion for questions.
Which they say they do, but I know it's like the chicken and the egg again. It's like if you don't know that you've written the right job description, if it gives you suggestions on the questions, it's going to be on the wrong job ad anyway. So,
and most people are all over. It's the freaking internet. So why do we need to limit ourselves as input of the only input? I'm not against the interview in itself, but there will be a lot of footprints that will tell a lot about, especially the soft skills, most likely also the hard skills. Because that's also initial kind of input in this. That's how I think about it. Why would we limit it to a test? Why would we limit it to a interview? What if I can have several interviews and I can mix that with several appearances and podcasts like that?
It's a time constraint as well. I mean,
if it's a machine doing it. You get my point. So if I take a machine, it's not easy to, it's like, it's already there, right? This is what one of the companies I work with in Korea, analyzing how you differently like change over time, and then combine that with how do I feel now, and during talking about these things, you will get all of these traits out. I mean, this is what I did with the text prompting in the conversation earlier. We can easily do this already now. I think the only part is then we get into some sort of privacy concern, I would argue, which is again also solved in other parts of the world that have privacy problems.
But what you're saying now, so you're saying like right now when we're trying to do this ranking, in the end, we are kind of narrowing it down to looking at ranking in relation to one test or like this.
But the ranking is the equivalent proxy as the CV is of my story. It's the exact same thing. Yeah. For me, this is the same problem. So why do we limit to this limited window?
In reality, the logic of trying to understand the dynamics of the storytelling will give also an approach to the ranking.
Yeah.
But if you try to focus on the interviewing techniques, and you mentioned something about having potentially robot interview use or something.
Yeah, or
And
whatever, like analyzing photos or videos.
But we also had another person, from Furhat, right? Furhat.
Yeah, Furhat. That's right.
Are they still around?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
Cool.
What is Furhat?
It's
I don't know.
basically
Furhat Robotics.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a face that you can
Train.
project. Like an arbitrary face on it, and then it can speak. And it's basically a physical robot kind of. And they actually do specialize in recruitment as well. So they actually use it for recruitment purposes, apparently. But I'm a bit reluctant. Is it really the right way to have like an interview with a robot?
No, for me, it's not an interview with the robot. I think I'm completely against the robot part. I mean, I would act very strangely if I talked to a robot.
Yeah.
But think of this. So if I would analyze all of the episodes of this podcast and then say, using this psychological framework, give me the characteristics of you as a person.
Psychological profile of me. Oh.
So then you will get a pretty good understanding of your soft skill, most likely better than I would get in an interview, because then you will pretend to be someone, right? That's what I
So you
see.
ask people to submit some videos of themselves then?
Yeah, or you go scrape their LinkedIn. You can even have normal interviews that you analyze over time as well. I mean, it doesn't have to be a binary thing. And I think this is the way I think, because then if we can use moving image and sound, analyze characteristics and skills and whatever and whatnot from those, that will be part of that ranking score. And that would also take in consideration a much longer time, which was most likely tell the story of me.
But it's interesting because the way we have done now, content, the flaws come out in the end, unfortunately.
And when you're stressed as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least when I do interviews, I want to stress a person. Sorry, but that's one of my techniques.
And also your smile while telling this. Can we just zoom in here? Zoom in his face, please.
No, but you want to understand how people are beneath the skin, so to speak.
Yeah,
inside,
totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And how do you actually achieve that? It's not that...
Yeah, I wouldn't use intimidation to do that.
This is personal feedback delivered straight at your face.
Sorry. No, I mean, when I perform interviews, it's more about having a conversation. I focus on that because when people trust you, they tend to open up more and be more genuine as well. Maybe I share personal stories because then they share personal stories back, and without them knowing it, I've gathered some information that they don't think matter, but for me, it's
Matters.
There you go.
Because they thought they were going to talk about their expertise, and you wanted to figure out their attitudes and personality.
Yes, and higher for skill.
Higher for skill, yeah.
No, higher for attitude. Sorry, higher for attitude.
But I think,
Please hire me for my English skills. I know programming in English.
but Stefan, I like the way you're thinking, but you're also in a slippery slope because
Of course I am.
Both of us are thinking about why limit ourselves to the interview when we have all decided to be public on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So when you have decided to be public on LinkedIn, why don't I, as an employer, understand, what can I find on LinkedIn? Now you can find these YouTube podcasts on YouTube and LinkedIn. It's no secret.
What about privacy then? I mean, the way you act in private, is that...
But are
really
we private?
good?
Are we private? So we are not private.
Some people argue that they are private.
No.
Facebook
Bullshit.
That's in Sweden.
The reality is when we decide to publish this in the podcast,
I mean, some people want
and someone
to
wants
share
to
photos
scrape,
on...
if someone wants to scrape all our podcast videos to give a personality flavor on you,
I'm
Would
going to
you argue
actually
the same
do
if an
this.
insurance company came and said to you, I've analyzed all your Instagram pictures and I'm going to increase your insurance rate.
Yeah.
How would you react to that?
Also, the
I think this
opposites
is
is
really
equally
touché, man.
bad.
Touché,
It's
man.
equally the same
Touché.
thing. Stefan, we notice you have stopped drinking alcohol and go to crazy parties. So we're going to decrease your insurance fee.
No, but it's a good point, right?
Privacy is still important. I think
Yeah. Because what you're saying now, like in theory, we are not public in that sense that we didn't agree to them scraping it for a insurance purpose or a recruitment purpose.
No.
That's the GDPR topic in here, right?
It is.
Do you think that would hold, Goran?
No.
I don't think it will. You know what? When we put out this, when you are public in some sense, legally, morally, ethically, I fully 100% with you. Legally, I'm not sure it will work. I really don't know.
Everything which is public domain knowledge.
If an employer forces you to share your closed Instagram or closed
No,
Facebook,
No. Closed
Time
is
out.
closed.
Yeah.
Not closed.
Not closed. Not
Nobody
never
mentioned closed. No, but if it's public thing, and I think this is the interesting part. And I mean, coming from South Korea, one of the companies I met is called Deeping Source. What they do focus extremely. So there's a bunch of Intel engineers. What they have built is literally a way of scrambling video. So it's unscrambled back. You can't find anything of the actual person. However, what they can do is pick out any change in your character from that, which looks like, I don't know what it looks like. It's just like Myrornas krig. I don't know what it's called in English, but that test screen, like. But it's interesting. They can do this in real life on any camera, meaning on any type of moving thing. Because in Korea, they have equally many cameras, I guess, as in the UK or
what is it called?
CCTV. It's all over the place, right? So they are very high on the privacy part. They have zero problem on me saying angry person, happy person. That's not a problem. They cannot tell that it's Stefan that's the happy person. They can say it's a male, X, age, and so on.
I think this is a very sensitive topic. And
it is, but it's a fun topic.
To find statistical correlations that is not causation. And I mean, we have the traditional Amazon story where they actually used AI to try to see who they should hire. And it turned out, it has gender biases in it that was inappropriate. There was a correlation, but not a causation. And they got so much backfire. And I think it turned out to be horribly wrong. So I think we really need to think through how we do this so we don't, abuse correlation for causation here.
But that would we equally do as humans as well, or?
It is, but it doesn't, AI can make it worse. AI can actually make biases worse.
Yeah, it also can make it better.
Maybe.
I mean, like it can. Nobody would know the answer. Yeah. I would argue. That's my point.
As long as you think it through, I'm happy. But
absolutely, it's all about like we talked about previously about knowledge, about the data that you put in.
Yes.
Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I want to steal now. This is we were joking. This is a chicken and the egg problem, and now in my opinion, we have. Is it the chicken or the egg? Oh.
We have an omelette now.
We have an omelette
with chicken feathers.
We talked now about the chicken problem of building the AI system. Mm-hmm. Chicken problem. Now let's go to the egg problem. How do we recruit now, or how do we get the right talent in to start working on these problems where we are today in order to build these systems? I mean, like either you go down the startup way and we build a startup, and then who do we need to hire for this startup to make it successful? Yep. Or if I go into the enterprise world, who should the enterprise people hire into HR or into IT to start being better at HR in order to make an AI-driven, we think we're going to move into an AI-driven approach, and we almost took the startup approach. Now we were cooking up the startup on the fly, right? But if
we had a fallout also,
that was the egg. The technology, the setup, that was the sort of the egg. Now the chicken is now, if we want to build a startup, or if I want to think about recruiting data and AI people next to HR domain expert people, in order to start working better, where do you start, or what is the competences here that we are trying to line up in order to improve on this topic?
I'm trying also to write like a summary of the question here, and I'm struggling a bit. But are you speaking about the other, should we go centralized for AI, or should it be decentralized?
It can come.
HR?
We are starting now. We were brainstorming about what the technology will look like. And now I'm asking, what are the people that needs to come together in order to realize that technology as a startup, or if you want to improve on it in the enterprise? What is the people we need in order to fix the problem that we've been brainstorming around?
Yeah, but I think if we pause and not bash so much on nature anymore, they can have a pause now. let them be for a while.
Yeah.
But the way I think, because I work a lot with this kind of big scale kind of enterprise program within AI now, they need to get AI ready, whatever they want to call it, right?
Yeah.
The main problem here is not, I mean, I can find you the talent that can build and train your model. They're not going to stay. The reason they're not going to stay is you don't have a data pipeline, you don't have a data engineer, you don't have business people understanding how to build data products, meaning literally every single thing connected to that talent is a nightmare. So I think equally, coming back to your quote of the 70-20-10, 70% here needs, this is not only an HR problem because they're just a proxy again for the CEO or CIO saying, oh, we need an AI project now with ChatGPT. So I think that's the actual problem, that we need to kind of maybe rethink the organization or create a space for them to interact. And anyone that has built any sort of AI thing or work any remotely closely to some sort of even Excel level crappy science knows that if you have crap in, you're going to get crap out.
And
so
I'm trying to also just write down a good question here, that like a topic summary in some kind. And would the topic be more or less, what skills do you need in an organization to be in an AI-enabled future? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, maybe.
But
maybe like mindset or like way of acting or something.
I'm with you here because there are some core competencies, yes.
Yeah.
But the problem right now is not the core competencies, it's the way we have decided to chop up and organize work and steer work.
Yeah.
I think that is the core problem.
Yeah.
So we have decided to have, based on economies of scale and Tayloristic thinking and scientific management out of the 30s, 20s, we work with division of labor. We have a value chain. We have our primary activities and we have our supporting activities. And we decided it was more efficient that you work over here with technology and you work over here with the primary process, HR or marketing. Actually, there are supporting processes compared to the core primary processes of producing or selling something. Doesn't matter. So we have decided that the efficiency comes from putting people of the same kind in different boxes. So we have organized now Lego according to red boxes, blue boxes, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, we want to organize our Lego boxes in teams with a couple of different colors in the same teams. And they should work in some way when they're close to the customer. And the Lego box is slightly different composition when it's on platform. And we are not building processes anymore.
What is the question, Henrik? Is it more like, should we have cross-functional teams?
There is no question, it's a rant.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking.
Oh my God.
But if I try to summarize a bit what you're trying to say here, I mean, there are different ways to try to bring out like understanding of technology and AI specifically throughout an organization. Either they can do it completely decentralized and every part of the organization should have some AI skills in it. If it's upskilling that's necessary, or if it's people that is going to have to be recruited, I don't know. But there are different ways, and we need, and I guess in an utopian version of the company, you should have AI understanding at least throughout the company, right? So that's at least the goal. Then the question is really, how do you move from a non-AI company towards becoming increasingly AI enabled?
And now I can put the question now. Okay. I like the way you framed it, because the first question is, what talent do we need? Actually flip that question, and the core question is, how do we organize the talent in relation to the organization? So it's what talent, but it's how do you organize it is actually the core question, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, how would you frame it?
I think
here we go.
Frame the problem.
Why do you want to have a question?
Einstein said, if you have 1 hour, I would spend 55 minutes framing the problem first.
I know.
No, but I think coming back
we need ChatGPT here.
So if you think about how would we want an organization, or how do we believe an organization should structure itself to be successful?
Yes.
With an AI ready and tackle and bring this on.
So I think one part is about the 1% incremental kind of readiness, right? Everybody needs to understand at least fundamental things on how to use it over the board. Secondary, you will have another problem, because majority of the jobs today will be somewhat replaced, not necessarily by a machine, but a combination.
Augmented. Let's use that
Augmented.
word.
Very good. Then the dilemma now for a lot of these is that they're stuck in their existing mental model and the existing way of measuring. Maybe you have a consultancy, you measure on hours. Okay, if you get smarter, you're going to do the job faster, meaning you have less hours paid. So you can't really sell hours. You need to start selling something else. Maybe it's insights, you say. Okay, that's going to work, but that's also going to slightly decline because insight doesn't really have a value. So what you need to do is aggregate that insight, combine it into new data products, which is the thing you sell. All of a sudden, that's very far from the existing thing. So I think maybe upskilling one part and then rethinking smaller teams and thinking about figuring these things out, because the tricky part is to innovate within that organization. Because if you do, you're going to have A and B team. You're going to also have a lot of distractions. So I use 70-20-10 very often when I do things. So take whatever you do now, 100%, optimize that to 70. You have 30 left, right? Take 10 of those, trying to figure shit out. Go for those, 20x, 30x instead of the 1x. Most of them will fail, and then take those and scale those, and then that's how you could do it.
I written down a question.
Your question.
Did you ChatGPT it? Actually, be honest now.
Ladies and gentlemen. Everybody.
It's not good, but still, how to move towards an AI-ready company. And what I mean with this is more, it's rather easy to imagine like a vision, a place where you want to be, where all people throughout the organization have an understanding of AI, and some people have an expertise in it. That's easy, I think. You want to have the managing, understanding the potential, and you want everyone to be working with it in a good way, and everyone being empowered by it, and the productivity is tenfolding and whatnot. But I think the hard question is really how to move from a non-AI ready company towards an AI ready company, because you can't really get all the people in at once, and you have to have some kind of incremental step to get there. And that, I think, is the tricky part. Yeah. And then,
this is what we talked about already. I don't get this guy. Do you know this guy? I don't.
No, but he needs to feel that he's controlling.
No, but I think it's a good point. Sorry for making the bad joke, inappropriate of me. No, but I think one part is getting that up. And I think that the tricky part here is that I'm trying to think of one company that is not like built now. Every single pipeline, every single measurement of people, individuals, anything is built and optimized for something else. Literally, it's almost impossible to do it. So I think one part is to start thinking, and looking back to people like me, like if you ask me 10 or anyone 5 years ago, what would you say? Give me more data. Now people say, take your crappy data and get the hell out of here, right? We don't want more. We want clean, we want working, we want a nice piece of pipeline. So it's not going to be the 99.9% cleaning or even figuring out, because that's the problem with most non-data driven companies. It's not even on the cleaning phase of data anymore. It's like, where the freaking F is this? And I think that's the problem. So thinking of those pipelines.
It's a much harder problem than most people think.
It's a harder problem. And if I go back to your core question, which I like that you framed the question, and now you're getting into the core business of what Dardax is all about. And the problem here is that people think we are, in some ways, we are an AI adoption company, but in reality, what we are a company that is around moving and doing the pivot from a type of organization that fits when the productivity frontier moves slow. You can work with economies of scale because your core process is fairly stable. Yeah. Compared to a situation when the productivity frontier moves really, really fast. So ultimately, the difference between these two states, when the productivity frontier moves slow, the innovation curves by slow, accelerating returns. Here you can work with efficiencies within the game So you can improve your process. And if you can improve your process 30-40%, wow. Now,
the time is flying by here.
But let me finish that one because this is key.
have to leave.
You have to leave.
In a couple of minutes. No, but I don't think it's a one size fits all solution either. I mean, looking at every organization out there will need to adopt AI and awareness in their specific way. I think that a lot of boardroom, remember we talked about this as well, the playing company, but I think a lot of companies from the top down need to actually understand the benefits of data and that you show them, and then make a decision from there. What do we need to do in order to move to this end result over here, or where we want, what we want to achieve, and where we want to be in 2 years, 5 years time. Yeah,
good. Before you have to leave, perhaps one last question for you.
Shoot.
Super easy one. Or not. What would a normal day look like for a recruiter in 2030?
2030, 6 years
or
from now.
Or 10 years from now, or what?
Really tough question.
I know. I thought I end with an easy one.
But thank you. No, but honestly, I can't give you a good answer because
But hopefully something without static resumes and perhaps a bit more.
My sort of dream view is that we moved away significantly from static CVs. I think, I'm hoping at least, that the recruitment industry doesn't look like what it looks like today. I think that candidates and employers have moved closer to each other, so that this middle segment of recruitment agencies is much smaller than it is today. And they are downsized and more specialized in other aspects of recruitment, because I think that the tool sets that the companies that you're going to be able to put in the hands of companies are going to replace much of what the recruitment agencies do today.
Let me ask the same question, exactly the same question, but I will frame it completely differently.
Okay.
With your passion and skills and, in my opinion, Alexandra, superpower, in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, what are the things that you will spend your effort and work on, and what is the core contribution of what you will do in 10 years' time? Because all the rest is just automated or is simplified. What is the core superpower, what recruitment, the human part of the recruitment should all be all about?
I would say people, behavior, analytics. I think that however you look at recruitment, at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah, and you are there to ultimately match the right human with your human ability of sensing and perception and consciousness to get it right.
My nerdiness right now is sort of looking at everything from you suggested Blueprint. I've deep dived into that book, looking at like behavior genetics in that sense, and for me that's what I'm focusing on moving forward, because I think we're transitioning into that. If you're not looking at AI, I think it's going to be looking at coaching companies or helping out to review candidates on a behavioral level, and to assess them in the best way possible. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, it's human.
Because it's
that's a good ending quote, I think.
And I think, just to say, what people will do in 6 years is what you already are doing, looking and talking to the human. Everything else is secondary, and you're doing an extremely awesome job, and that's why I'm here with you, talking about these things.
But ultimately then it's like you want to unlock more time with the human perspective, and all the rest should just be automated.
Absolutely. And like reduce the biases so that you can come into a meeting with a candidate and focus on that individual, and all the rest of it is like white noise or whatever.
Exactly. So you have now done it there. Now we can be humans and we focus on this.
Yes.
Awesome.
If, and assuming that we do get an artificial general intelligence, we can imagine at least two types of future, two extremes. One extreme would be the dystopian nightmare of the Matrix, of the Terminator, and machines are killing us all.
Yep.
The other extreme would be the utopian future, where AI is creating a world of abundance, as some people call it, a paradise in some way, where humans are free to pursue, whatever happiness, passion, creativity that they want. And perhaps we don't have to work 40 hours a week anymore, and we are free to live our lives without the burdens that we have today. Given these two extremes, where do you think we will end up? Let's start with you, Alex. Do you think we'll be more close to the dystopian or the utopian future?
Well, I tend to, even though I'm from the up north, I tend to have a positive outlook. So I'm going to be all rainbows and butterflies here and say utopian, because I'm thinking at the end of the day, I'm at least putting my hope in humanity and saying that we are smart about all of this and don't go bananas. But hey, on the topic US, we have others.
Good. Hopefully we have by then stopped pretending to be computers, meaning stop doing repetitive shit over and over and again and all of those. If it's dystopia or paradise or whatever, I don't know. I think technology is the least of our worries. The human ego is the one I'm more worried about.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
Humans, I actually agree as well. It's not really the technology that is the danger. It's really the people abusing the technology potentially. Exactly. That is the real danger.
Do you agree?
I do. And it's surprising that almost everyone is saying it's more of a utopian probability than dystopian.
So I will disagree now.
Okay.
Of course you do.
And just for the fun of it.
Yes, please.
And I will kind of steal an argument from a couple of our guests that I kind of heard more and more also, listening. You can almost hear a change in Sam Altman's attitudes and communication the last couple of months. And the argument is literally, we will always find the relevant problems and the relevant pains as humans, irregardless if we're in the 16th century or the 19th century or in the year 3000. So the argument, the theory is that actually, when will we find AGI and when will this utopia happen? We will not experience this as in such a paradigm shift as a human race. It will be incremental, even if it goes faster and faster and faster.
It's boiling the frog.
It will always be the problem at hand of the times at hand that we will experience. So the argument is, it will be the same. But on an accelerated scale with other types of problems, maybe it's utopia in terms of comparing, like we are comparing now to the medieval times, but we won't think of it as utopia at that point in time. We will just simply think about it in a different way.
Maybe. True.
So I think we get on with it.
Get on with it.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, but Sam
I don't know.
has recently said, even when we will have AGI, in his view, it will not really change that much that people think.
And because it becomes this bottom line definition. I mean, like Jan LeCun thinks even AGI as a definition is fundamentally flawed. What is human intelligence? What is artificial general intelligence? The best thing we have seen is probably the paper came out doing the level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, simple stuff like this, right? That becomes a little bit more concrete. But ultimately, the bottom line is that we have a hard time understanding the innovation that is happening around us as it is happening. And then we can look back, even if it's 5 years, 10 years, wow, what happened here? Yeah. But right in the moment, we are not very good at understanding as a paradigm shift.
Touché.
Yes.
That's my view.
Well, cheers and thanks again for an awesome future with AGI on our side.
Yeah.
Thank you.